Okay, let's just jump right in. What if I told you that one of the most powerful solutions to our planet's biggest problems isn't some futuristic gadget, but it's actually hiding right under our feet? Seriously, we're talking about a team of microscopic superheroes, and scientists are finally figuring out how to unleash their power.
So think about it. We've got these two massive challenges staring us down. First, how do we feed a growing population? And second, how do we deal with climate change? You'd think those are totally separate fights, right? Well, this new research suggests there might be a single solution that tackles both at the same time.
And a huge part of the problem is this number, almost 11%. That's the amount of land on Earth that's considered saline alkaline soil. Basically, it's salty, it's tough, and most of our food crops just can't grow there. And that number's getting bigger every year. Which brings us to the big question, doesn't it? With good farmland becoming scarcer, how in the world are we going to grow enough food? How can we make these difficult, marginal lands useful again? Not just for growing food, but maybe for healing the planet too.
Well, the answer, it turns out, has been there all along, with the planet's unseen helpers. We're talking about the trillions and trillions of beneficial microbes that live in the soil. For the longest time, we kind of knew they were important, but now scientists are learning how to actually assemble them into specialized teams to do very specific jobs.
And that brings us to this really cool concept, a SynCom community, or SynCom for short. The best way to think about it is like building a microbial dream team. Or, hey, think of it like probiotics, but for the soil. You're not just using one type of microbe, you're handpicking a whole crew where each member has a different skill that helps the team win.
So, the researchers behind this study had this brilliant idea. They knew bacteria could help plants grow, but they asked, what if we made a cross-kingdom team? What happens when you combine the best bacteria with a really powerful fungus? Do you just get their powers added together? Or do you unlock something way, way better?
So how did they do it? I mean, this wasn't just about mixing a bunch of microbes in a bucket and hoping for the best. No, this was a super careful, methodical process, like holding tryouts to build a perfect championship team.
It all went down in 3 main steps. First, you had the bacterial tryouts. They tested a bunch of different combos to see which one was the absolute best at helping plants grow in that nasty, salty soil. Step 2, they brought in the superstar player, this fungus called Trichoderma simile. Then came step 3, the ultimate test. They put the full team, bacteria and fungus, together and let them loose to see what would happen.
Now, I know this chart looks a little intense, but it just shows you how serious they were about step 1. Every one of those dots is a different 4-bacteria team they put to the test. They were measuring everything, plant height, weight, you name it, to find the undisputed champion. And that winning team, the one they circled up there, is the one that made the plants healthiest. They called this bacterial squad the B syncom. All right, so after all that careful building and testing, it was the moment of truth. Did the final dream team, the bacteria plus the fungus, actually work? Well, the results were absolutely incredible.
First up, plant growth. The full team, which they called the C-SynCom for cross-kingdom, increased the plant's dry weight by over 107%. Let me say that again. It more than doubled the size of the plant. Just wow.
But that wasn't even the whole story. At the exact same time, that exact same team increased the amount of carbon stored in the soil by over 106%. Again, more than double. You're getting bigger plants and you're fighting climate change. That is a massive win-win.
And this chart just makes it so visually obvious. On the left, you've got plant weight. On the right, soil carbon. Now just look at that last bar on the far right of both charts. That's our dream team, the C-SynCom. It's not even a close competition. It's just head and shoulders above everything else.
So the next question is obvious, right? How? How did this one specific combination pull off something so amazing when the individual parts couldn't? Well, the secret wasn't just addition. It was synergy. It was teamwork.
The scientists discovered what they called a collaborative division of labor. What that means is the microbes weren't all stepping on each other's toes. They each had a specific job to do, and they did it perfectly. Together. This was a case where 1 + 1 didn't equal 2. It was more like 1 + 1 = 10.
And here is how they split up the work. The bacteria, they were the growth promoters. Their main gig was to pump up the plant itself, helping it get big and strong. But the fungus, it had a different role. It was the carbon keeper. Its superpower was taking carbon out of the atmosphere and locking it deep in the soil.
And this slide right here is basically the smoking gun. Just look. The chart on the left shows that adding the fungus by itself didn't really do a whole lot for the plant's weight. But now, look at the chart on the right. Its presence had a huge positive impact on the carbon in the soil. This is the proof. The fungus had a very specific and very important job to do.
And they dug even deeper, looking at the genes being turned on in the soil. The easiest way to think of this heat map is like a genetic light switch. Red means on, and if you look at that column on the far right, you can see our dream team was flipping on all the right switches, the ones for making plants grow and the ones for storing carbon. They were literally engineering the perfect environment.
Okay, this science is absolutely fascinating, but let's bring it back to the real world. What does this actually mean for us, for the planet? Let's connect it back to those huge challenges we talked about at the beginning.
Well, the implications here are just massive. This gives us a potential blueprint to take barren, salty land and make it fertile again. That means more food security without having to cut down more forests. It also gives us an incredibly powerful new tool to fight climate change by actively pulling carbon out of the air. And get this, the fungus even creates these biological highways that help the bacteria get around and do their jobs even better.
And that's really the key takeaway here. This is a huge leap forward. We're moving beyond just kind of hoping good microbes are in the soil. This study gives us a real strategy for what we can call precision microbiome engineering. It's about designing and building custom-made microbial teams to solve very specific problems in farming and for the environment.
Which leaves us with a pretty incredible thought to end on. You know, we prescribe specific medicines to heal our bodies, right? So could we be heading toward a future where we literally prescribe custom microbe cocktails to heal our planet's sick soils? Based on this research, that future might be a lot closer than any of us think.